Ambitious women, entrepreneurs are beginning a movement to create a new way of business that focuses on collaboration and community. Together, we are shaping the way by using our intuition, our inner insight, and our creativity. Join us for inspiration, motivation, and transformation. This is your host, Luci McMonagle, and this is the Wealthy Wednesday Show. A special thanks to Gordon Reary for creating the music. You can find him on Facebook under Gordon Reary. So now, let's get started. Hey, welcome to another edition of the Wealthy Wednesday Show. This is your host, Luci McMonagle, and today we are in for a treat. I am so honored and so blessed that I have an incredible lady that is going to help you with your prosperity. She's going to help you as a mompreneur who might be struggling financially, and she's going to help you with being able to move forward in your life and in your business and bring some spirituality there, because she has the keys that you may have been looking for. Her name is Janette Getui, and she is a mompreneur and prosperity coach devoted to showing others how to produce more freedom and opulence in life. So she is the co-founder of Bold Beautiful Blissful U and hosts transformational prosperity classes and masterminds. She's also known as a modern-day mystic, and she has an abundant beach lifestyle that she gets to enjoy in Europe that overcomes poverty consciousness, limiting beliefs, and low self-worth. So she helps you move forward in your life. Let's give a warm welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Luci. That was a great intro.
Wow. I'm really, really grateful that you are taking the time out to really empower the individuals that are listening to this, because you don't normally appear on video. And it's not that you're trying to hide or anything, but because you're so inundated with your work, because you're so passionate about really empowering the individuals and the mompreneurs that you work with, that you want to really focus on that. So thank you for making a very special appearance on the Wealthy Wednesday Show. We are greatly honored for you doing this.
The honor is mine. It's a joy for me. You're right. I don't often agree to appear on live TV, on videos, but I always feel like when there is a resonance, it just happens naturally, and timings fit in just like it happened with us. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you are so passionate about bringing financial freedom into the world. And could you tell us a little bit on what is the best way that you have found to help secure financial freedom, and why is that so crucial as a mompreneur?
Great question. Yeah, economic empowerment is my thing. It's beyond being passionate. It's my story, because yes, I live by the beach now, and I do live on the finest spots of Europe for sure. I mean, now is summer, but we have some of the best weather ever all year through. And it's such a gift for me to be here, because I was actually born not even in this continent. I was born in Africa, in Kenya, in one of the largest slums there. And you can say that economic empowerment and creating freedom in all regards, not just financially, is a huge passion for me, because that has been my journey. That's what I've really battled with. And I mean that in all regards, not just physically, but especially mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It did not come easy for me. So the cool thing about the work that I get to do now, and the fact that I live such a completely different experience in the same life, is I get to meet and discuss and talk with and train on a topic that for a very long time I thought only people in the slum struggle with, like, how to become financially free, how to experience abundance, how to be healthy, how to manifest love. I really thought that once you get out of the slum, it sort of goes.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I've learned over time that it's not quite the case. And in fact, there are people who grew up in what I consider amazing backgrounds, normal homes, went to school, had shoes, had cars. For me, that's crazy awesome. But they still struggle as adults, and they're still stuck in a paradigm that really doesn't serve us anymore as a modern civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And two, a lot of misunderstanding in bringing together money and spirituality. So for me, financial freedom is something that's huge. Economic empowerment is something that's huge. For the mom, takes it to a whole other level, because as a mom, I know the impact and the influence we have on our children. And we really do set the standard, the framework of life for what our kids will get to experience when they grow up. If we haven't yet tapped into the truth of our abundant nature, if we don't believe in the idea that we are free already, that we do deserve to feel empowered and be self-sufficient, it becomes really hard for our kids to grow up and experience the kind of life we actually dream for them. So that's like one of the core reasons why I think it's something every mother has to invest in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And looking at bridging that financial freedom with spirituality, there's so many individuals who will say, if I'm spiritual, then I have to give my gifts for free and become a martyr. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey of overcoming that mindset from growing up from the African slums to really understanding that spirituality and financial freedom is a divine right, but it's also a mindset?
Yeah, I think maybe the biggest lie that we are still learning to overcome is this idea that there is virtue in poverty. And especially when we start discovering the spiritual side of our nature, because everyone is a spiritual being. The fact that I master and I focus on the metaphysical side of life doesn't make me any more spiritual than the material girl I used to be a decade ago. Or say a guy or a girl on the street who never heard about spirituality or never goes to church, or, I mean, the biggest extremes you can find, the thief, whoever. No one is more spiritual than the other. It's just a matter of being consciously aware of our own spirituality. There's a huge difference. And because of my culture and where I came from, the crazy thing is the poorest people in this world, like those that are like me who did grow up on the streets in the slums, they really associate God with that kind of lifestyle. So I grew up in an environment, in a family, generation after generation, of massive poverty, and they were like all very deep Catholics. So what I learned is, well, if I'm going to take care of my family and take them out of the streets, the first thing I have to do is sort of like cancel my name out in this book, if there is a book, because the God of my upbringing was a very nasty God. If he had, subjected me to that kind of a life, which I just felt inside me wasn't right. And it's almost like I had this paradigm that then became my biggest obstacle, that being a material girl and going after success completely ruled me out of quote unquote heaven. So there was no chance for me. And one of the biggest battles I came across, this is several years ago, was after getting into mentorship. I spent a lot of years under Bob Proctor's mentorship. So I used to facilitate for him in the beginning. And I realized that there was something else calling me that was more than just talking about paradigm shift and mindset work, that there was something more. Because the more I got obsessed with the mind, the more I started having certain encounters that I couldn't explain. And up until that time, I had never written, because I don't have, any formal education, business education. So I wasn't doing anything outside what I felt were my limitations, which was really small. My intellectual insight at the time was very, very small. And in just studying and working under Bob Proctor's guidance, I started hearing a different voice that I had never heard before. And sometimes it would wake me up in the middle of the night and I would just stop writing. And I can't read my own writing very well because I didn't take any writing classes, so I couldn't understand it. And I started sharing it with people. And I remember one time I shared it with a fellow coach and I said, try and read it for me. And she said, oh my God, how did you write this? I said, I was half asleep. I don't know. And I've had a lot of encounters like that. And at some point I tried to constrict it even more because I didn't understand what was happening to me. So then, like I like to tell people, God decided to hit me with a stone and, make me listen even more. And eventually I was speaking with my first husband, because I was married and I have a child from my first marriage, and he's now one of my closest friends. And I told him what I was going through. And because he knows how much of a material girl I am, he said to me, oh my God, do you know what your biggest issue is? You've spent your whole life believing that because of your choices, you're a sinner, and you are refusing to believe that God is talking to you. And that broke me down. Because it's not possible. I'm vain. I love money. I love a good life. I still want to have my champagne and, buy my couple of €1,000 shoes. That's just how I am. I wanted the good life. And I thought that because I had gone for that, God was never going to speak to me. And so the battle for me was realizing that, one, not only was he speaking to me, but he now wanted me to alter the whole perspective of my work, how I was healing and presenting myself, the nature of my topics. And he just wanted to take me in, and he wanted me to write, which was crazy because I didn't even learn how to write. I don't even have a signature. This is so funny because I got my first book internationally published, and then I had to do like an autograph thing. I didn't have a signature, and my daughter had to teach me how to do a signature. So for me, in the beginning, it was like, this can't be happening to me. He must have the wrong girl. So learning to close that gap for myself is probably a lot harder than everyone else I get to meet and interact with now. But I am very much aware that I'm not the only one. And I know that that's one of the biggest lies that humanity has to overcome. It's just this understanding of separating ourselves from God and then separating money from God. Because we've created that divorce, that God, me, and money becomes such a difficult thing to reconcile when you start pursuing a more spiritually awakened kind of life. However, it really isn't that hard.
Wow.
It's not that hard.
Well, can you tell us a couple of tips that the audience can start chipping away at that bridge? If they have a separation between God, spirituality, and money, what are the very first steps that they could start taking today before they would contact you or contact me or contact somebody else who's a mentor who would help them break through those paradigms?
Absolutely. And I like to think of it like, regardless of what we're doing now, whether we're building a ministry or an online marketing business, a brick and mortar, it doesn't really matter. Financial freedom, especially in the digital economy, it is really opening out to us in such an abundance, because I feel like we're at the point where the game of life is shifting, and we're now it's almost like I feel we're at a place where humanity is moving from that state of the desert life, quote unquote, and entering into the promised land. And I feel like that's part of what the internet can provide for us. So we can stop trading time for money. So we can stop relying on just one job. So, I mean, there's so much happening that's good. But of course, the process is always kind of messy. So for those who don't understand exactly what's happening, it can feel like things are getting worse, but actually things are falling more into place. What we need is to get back to basics, which is what I focus on. So I never pretend that I'm going to help my clients deal with the sophisticated pieces of building that empire, you know, the details of how huge it's supposed to be. You know, like if we're building a skyscraper, there's all the beautiful details that make it awesome. Mm-hmm. But without the right foundation, that skyscraper isn't going to last. And I feel like at this day and age, the thing we need the most is to remember the foundation that we have to dig up before we come out and now build the huge empire that's now possible for us. And I go with very, very simple ideas. The more simple it is, if I can explain it to a 9-year-old, because I started explaining it to my daughter when she was like, I think 8, the better. Yes. So if I could simplify it into just 3 simple steps of how do we start reconciling money and my power to manifest with truth. Because for me, truth is unalterable. Doesn't matter how you change it, you know? And the first thing I would say is we have to understand that, first of all, we create from the inside out. Correct. From the inside out, meaning that we have this tool, this priceless piece of real estate that we have to manage called our mind. How our mind works is so important, because it doesn't matter what system I give. It doesn't matter what information or affirmations or tools and techniques. If you don't know how your mind works to be able to employ that tool properly, you're going nowhere. Correct. So the most important thing is to recognize that I have a mind, and my mind is creating my body and it's creating the conditions of my life. But I am not my mind. I am the one who's supposed to be in charge of my mind, so it can create what I wanted to create. And the simplest form of understanding the mind, this would be step 1, is knowing I have a mind. I need to know how to use it. My mind has a conscious aspect to it and a subconscious aspect to it. And the subconscious is basically running everything. That's how my teeth continue to stay in place. You know, that's how my nails continue to grow even if I'm sleeping. My hair, my blood is circulating. My body right now is doing like a gazillion things while I'm talking to you, right? Correct. Someone is doing that. And that power that's moving through me is actually coming through my subconscious mind. So when I realize I have my conscious mind, the one I'm using now, and my conscious mind is connected to my subconscious mind, and there's a harmony and communication that has to happen there, almost like a little dance where the conscious has to impress the subconscious with something, and then the subconscious is going to go and work on it, right? And I like to give them the male and the female aspect to it, because it just makes it a lot easier for everyone to understand. So if we can think of the conscious as the male aspect and the female, because as women we give birth, right? So the subconscious has to be the female aspect. So the male goes, impregnates the female, and the female produces the child of a like nature to what she was given by her husband. Unlike in the human relationship where my husband could say one thing and I could do another, the subconscious doesn't do that. The subconscious does exactly what is impressed. The problem is our subconscious is infiltrated with past ideas, what I got from my mother, what she got from her mother, and on and on and on and on and on. And it's replaying that every single day of my life. So when I want to repattern, recondition my entire experience of life, what is projected on the outside, I have to use my conscious mind to impress my subconscious mind with a higher truth, a truth that will override whatever was there before. So if I'm now impressing my subconscious mind, and this would be step 2, impress it with what? Impress it with the truth about your nature. The fact that you now know you are a spiritual being, that you are connected with the divine intelligence that is governing everything in existence, that the subconscious herself is the direct access through which this divine power that's breathing us comes through. So the more we start to impress ourselves with that fundamental truth, this is going back into the foundation and actually building a deeper foundation. So all of a sudden, when I look out into the world and I'm looking at where how much money is good for me to have, I'm not going to be considering that from the perspective of money in terms of physical paper, whether it's a dollar or a euro. I'm going to be considering money from the fundamental truth of my nature, which is I am a spiritual being connected to the divine intelligence that is abundant. And I can see that with the leaves, with the trees, with the flowers, with the sand, with the air all around me. That kind of abundance is manifesting through me. And in my human nature, that abundance is represented in the symbol of money. So all of a sudden, I am now not segregating money from my true nature. So that would be step 2. First, I know what my mind is. Then I impress my subconscious with the truth of my nature, of who I am, of what God or spirit or source wants for me, how he made me, the blueprint that he gave me. And then step 3 would be repeat and repeat and repeat until the same way I know my name is Janette and you know your name is Luci. Nobody can take that away from you.
Correct.
You repeat it until it anchors in as the new pattern, and the rest just falls into place automatically. The same way we went from tiny cells to fully blown human beings. How did we do that? Didn't it happen naturally?
Correct.
It's the same way wealth now manifests out of us, so such that everything we touch then has a Midas touch.
Wow. That is beautifully explained. That is absolutely beautifully explained. And really understanding that when you are in touch with your truth, the truth of your being, and you impress onto the subconscious mind, then the subconscious mind, just like it runs your heart rate and your body and your blood moving and everything else, it also starts manifesting your outer experiences. And
Exactly.
when you start noticing these outer experiences, your conscious mind has an opportunity now to either start believing it more and more or looking at it and saying it's a coincidence. Can you explain on how, now that, let's say somebody is taking these 3 steps,
Okay.
but they're bumping up against resistance on their conscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that you do that will help with just moving beyond a little bit of that resistance as they keep impressing on their subconscious mind, and then they're starting to see the little spurts, the little growth, but it's not fast enough, or it's not manifesting the way their conscious mind thinks it should? Do you have some type of tip that you can give us about that?
Yeah, and that's a really good one, because sometimes we apply personal development to the ego and not to seriously, not to advancing our consciousness. We just apply to pump up the ego. And the main thing that I always like to remind everyone around me, whether it's my friends or my clients, is that life is a state of consciousness. When I want to tune to the frequency of opulence, it's a lot easier if I'm just tuning the TV, because I just take the remote, boom, and I move from a horrible channel that I don't want to watch to MTV or, a kid's cartoon, whatever I do want. It happens like that.
Correct.
It happens instantaneously also for the spiritual being. But we live in a time-space continuum. So there is a law of growth that we have to respect.
Mm-hmm.
The law of growth, evolution, which is actually the law of growth, is something none of us can bypass. And the only thing I know that works when we are shifting from poverty consciousness to prosperity consciousness, especially if we want it to be permanent, is to cultivate faith. Because without faith, we go nowhere. The dark night of the soul, no one is going to escape that. Because even though I live and move and have my being as much as I can, practicing the presence of the source that's breathing me consciously, and I still get knocked down. Because every time I'm shifting from this level of my prosperity to a higher level of prosperity, when I'm climbing from that level to another, there is that growth that I have to make. The only difference is because I've become so strong in my faith, I now know the tools that help me to maintain and cultivate more and more of that faith. Because first of all, when I understand that this is a law-based universe, okay, if I'm aligning myself with the process of manifestation, with the process of creation, it's just as done as the fact that gravity has to work. Like, it doesn't matter if you're the biggest saint, you fall off a building, you're done, right? It's the same thing with manifesting and this walk that we have in this gift we call life. There are precise laws that are governing us. So the knowledge of knowing how the game of life works helps a lot.
Yes.
But we need the faith for the dark nights, and they will come. The bigger your game, the more he is going to come knocking at your door, Mr. Fear. He has to. Because think about it like this. There would be no action hero movies if there was no villain. Like, the villain has to be there to remind the action hero who he is. So if the savior in us is to come out, and trust me, the only savior there is the one that's coming out of you. So if the savior needs to come out, that means that villain called fear and doubt and, criticism, all that stuff, and who am I, they will show up, not because they are there to prove that you're not worthy or all this other crappy stuff that we tell ourselves, but because they are there to help us remember who we really are. There is great strength that is drawn out of a woman who is walking on this earth, going through all the daily drama, solving all her problems with the awareness that she is the child of our Creator. Faith has to be developed. And the only way you develop faith is by coming face to face with the things that you fear the most. So the tools that can help you cultivate and maintain that faith, they are different for everyone, and there's so many. Some people will do affirmations, which are really good when you know what you're doing and how you're doing them. Affirmations are wonderful. You can use meditation. That's my thing. I like to say I don't do until I meditate. I can't do anything without my meditation. And I feel like that is one of the moments that I take to what I call make love with the universe, because it's my moment to find that oneness. And some days are a lot easier than others. But with time, because my faith is so strong, even if I go out and I meet something, the problem or the challenge that would make me question who I am, I always remember that I have this breath of life, and this breath of life is the one that's supposed to banish whatever darkness I find along my path. And that faith has come mostly through the cultivation of, my spiritual truth, using some of those tools like meditation. I think what works best for me is, one, the meditation, and two, the sacred text that I rely on. So I would also recommend, if whichever religion or faith you carry, immerse yourself in the books that uplift you, that fill you up with that knowing that you are already being breathed into by that power. And whether that comes in the form of, audio, now we have so much technology, right? Or worship music, or to me, it doesn't matter. It's what digs deeper, the faith in the truth that you have discovered as a spiritual being. That's the stuff that you use. And sometimes you only need it once a day. Sometimes you need it 50 times a day. Sometimes you need an alarm on your smartphone, like every hour on the hour. And
Yes.
that's also okay, but it's a matter of finding what speaks to your soul first and foremost, and recognizing that you can't just do it once. It's not, I meditated in the morning and that's it. No. It's a moment by moment, because consciousness is built not just in the morning and in the evening when we do our affirmations, but in every action, in every thought that we're engaged in. So finding what helps you keep your faith when things are tough, regardless of what it is, that's what I would advise.
Wow. And you also have an incredible free gift to help individuals to devise more for them. Could you tell us a little bit about this free gift, and how can individuals access it?
Right. So I do a lot of prosperity workshops. I do live prosperity retreats as well here on the Riviera, which is quite lovely. Actually, this year we had one also in the bush, in a very exotic place, which is fantastic. But I like to keep all my prosperity workshops as interactive as possible, because dealing with the metaphysical side of life, I feel like the best I can give is the subtleties that would not normally be perceived in reading a book or in going through a recorded course. If it was just enough to go through an online training that's pre-recorded and have your transformation, things would be very different in the personal development space, I'll tell you that. But normally it's the subtleties that, especially when you're trying to overcome poverty consciousness, we fail to notice. And then we just shoot ourselves in the foot. So I like to create mini workshops, especially for those who are not, for whatever reason, able to attend my more lengthy ones. And this is just one of them that I offered to your audience, Luci, because I thought this would be such a great way for me to share some of the laws of prosperity that we now know and have proven totally work. It's also a better way for me to share in a more interactive way the understanding of the mind, which can also be really confusing, especially if you've gone your whole life not knowing the difference between your body, your mind, and you as a spiritual being. And so the program is really centered on helping women, more specifically moms who are in business, to reconcile wealth in their understanding of God. Because I think at a core level, we as a human population, we do have our own way of believing in God. We may not call it that. We have different names, and we have different understandings to it. And I never like to tell someone that their religion is wrong, or whatever name they've attached to the supreme intelligence I call God is different. I normally like to know, what is your faith? Now bring it and let's dig it into a deeper truth. The same way when my daughter was, in first grade, she only did 1+1. She only understood the law of addition. And if you had told her, 5 times 5 is 25, she would have looked at you like, what the hell? Like, no, maybe 10, but definitely not 25, because she wasn't exposed to the law of multiplication. Now, if you ask her, the mathlete that she is, she does all crazy equations now. And it's just because she's learned over time that there's a higher law and a higher law and a higher law. And for me, that course is primarily centered on helping women close that gap, like we said, between the higher law of life that for many of us, we've misunderstood, we've created a gap, we've divorced ourselves in the name of protecting ourselves from what we thought would be a more horrible life or punishment. Just reconciling that harmony, bringing back that divine knowing that actually your true wealth, your fastest way to be financially free and never have to worry about where your next salary is going to come from or how your kid is going to go to that university or whatever, comes from that marriage, that union once more. And that's what we do on the workshop.
Wow. So the name of the workshop is Mom, Mind, and the Master Key to Wealth. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a mom, but this will definitely benefit you even more if you are. And this is a 7-day online workshop, so you can be anywhere in the world, not necessarily in the Riviera where you're located, so that they can learn the 4 fundamental pillars of creating true success and prosperity. They'll have the keys to staying strong and keeping your faith with confidence, and also to help you when things are falling apart, or as I call it, when things are falling in place.
Exactly.
Even though it looks like everything's falling
apart. Yeah.
Yes. And then you also are going to have them, you're going to give them 3 things that they can do immediately to expect and manifest miracles in their life. So that is absolutely incredibly powerful.
It's a bold promise, but I've been meeting it ever since. So I take on the challenge.
and you have really truly created miracles and prosperity in so many women's lives. That is why you're so incredibly passionate, is to help them. So I have the links for this listed below. And individuals can also get a hold of you on your website. And I'm going to spell this out for individuals. So grab a pen and paper real quick if you need to. So the website is JANETTE, as in great, ETUI.com. And that is her website. And you can, if you add mom-mind-master-key-wealth to the end of that website after a slash, you'll be able to get to this free, awesome gift that's only available for a limited time. So please hop onto the website. Be sure you get signed up so that you will be able to be a part of the live courses. So is that correct?
Absolutely. You're spot on, Lucy. Yes, absolutely. And I think what we'll do, as I mentioned before, is I'm going to make sure that even because this can't be an evergreen thing, because it is interactive, once we close for the season, I will still make sure that there is something equally as good, perhaps on a more evergreen format that still serves your audience, attaining the same results.
Fabulous, fabulous. So I am so grateful that you've brought your wisdom. You've given us so many juicy tips and keys in there. And personally, if I could have, I probably would have written them down. really quickly, but doesn't look too good if I'm actually being recorded. So thank you for bringing these juicy tips to the audience. And I want to say to my audience, please re-listen to this. There's so many gold nuggets that I caught that could be very easily missed if you didn't know what you were looking for. So re-listen to this interview and take very good notes and get a hold of her. Let her know that you're interested. Hey, maybe you want to go to the retreats. Maybe you're ready to really have a breakthrough in your prosperity so that you're able to create the big legacy that you're meant to create. So I want to thank you for being on the show. And I want to thank my audience for listening, because it's you is why I am bringing this show to you every single week, and why I truly believe in you. And I know that bringing you this knowledge will help you become the individual that you're seeking to be, and to be able to create the impact on the world that you desire to create, because we need you to wake up and to step up and to move forward and to band together with so many other conscious women entrepreneurs that are making this world a better place. So thank you. And until next time, abundant blessings.
Thank you, Luci.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Wealthy Wednesday Show. This is your host, Luci McMonagle, and I would love to keep in touch with you by giving you a very special gift that will help you move your business and your life forward. You can access this special gift I am giving to you at my website at lucimcmonagle.com. That's LuciMcMonagle.com for keeping in touch with me and getting access to a gift that will help you move your business and life forward. Until next time, abundant blessings.